Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, we're going to be talking about the markets generally speaking, but we're also going to be talking about how high this crypto cycle can go. Because I know there's been a lot of conversations, a lot of talks about how high can we truly go. Now, listen, I know, right? It's a lot of people love predictions, right? Because they want to hear the numbers they want to hear. At the end of the day, we are not in control. That is the reality. We are not in control. We are simply the players playing the game. Now, obviously, me, you, all of us wanted to go as high as possible. Would I want this market cap to 10x in a span of 6 months? Absolutely. Because let me tell you, all of our bags would be so damn green and we would be filthy. I mean, filthy rich, right? All of us. So, but we have to be a little bit realistic, but we can use certain measurement tools. We can use certain data from previous cycles. We can use just, looking at the how the global markets are, the news that's coming out to see where we might possibly end up. Okay. So first, I do want to use this global liquidity tool, right? I haven't actually used this on the amount of market cap. I've used it on Bitcoin and stuff, so I want to see if it's roughly the same. We can see that 91 days historically has worked very well for us in terms of getting the tops in and the bottoms, right? So if we take the top and we can see 91 days was actually the last week before, things crashed. Yeah, sure, they recovered a little bit, but that was the start of the downtrend. That doji candle we see over there, that was at 91 days. And if we take it from the bottom to all the way to the right, yep, it's still 91 days. So it is literally perfect. It is literally perfect. Okay. So look, ladies and gentlemen, now here's one thing that I'm telling people, and this is why this is so exciting. We are down here in terms of the liquidity right now. We are down here. And what does that mean? Well, that means we are about to expand. And I can prove that we are down here because we've seen it in the past that 91 days is roughly, the threshold. And if we take it from this bottom, we go here, we are at 91 days. So what do I expect? Well, I expect, within the next week or so for there to be nice, massive pumps. Okay. Very nice, massive pumps. Now we can see, ladies and gentlemen, that if we actually take it from the bottoms to where we're at right now, if we actually do this little trick that I like to do to more or less get an estimate, we can see that we are actually, boom, clone again, we are actually going to be at one point two times higher. So I know this might sound kind of crazy, right? Because I'm using this box method, but trust me, I've done this in the past and it works very nice. So if more or less one box indicates, right, this price action from the bottom to this bottom, and we have gone from, let's just say, here to here, right? Then if we were to use another two more boxes like the way we had, then we can get an indication of where we might peak in July. The reason why I say July is because if we take the current top of the liquidity, go out 91 days, it is going to be the 14th of July. So somewhere mid-July is where we will have our first peak. So ladies and gentlemen, right? If this theory is correct that I'm using, and I have used it in the past, then where we might end up in mid-July, based off this box theory that I have and I've used in the past, we might end up, this is looking very nice, we might end up around the 6 trillion mark. We might end up around the 6 trillion mark just from what I see right now. So we can see around 5.30 trillion would be the market cap, the total market cap of crypto mid-July. Now, I do think we will go much higher than that. Of course, we see global liquidity does take a little bit of a dip, but overall, we are expecting to be pumping more, right? A little bit of a pullback here and there is normal. I do overall expect global liquidity to continue at least for a few more months. I expect the stock markets to be good, the S&P 500, all of these assets, all of these stocks to continue to pumping at least for a couple months. Because the data suggests it. So, we very well could be going higher and higher after that. But we could see that we might possibly peak around the 5.25 trillion mark in mid-July, which would be crazy because if we do peak somewhere here and we do have a little bit of a pullback and global liquidity does continue to extend to wherever it does, we'll have more data by then, ladies and gentlemen, we could be very well, expanding to very, very large areas in terms of total market cap. Okay. I would not be surprised. I would genuinely not be surprised. I do overall expect a crash in 2026. So, some type of big bubble right before a crash is going to be literally the most perfect, type of scenario for the market makers, manipulators, whatever you want to call them, right? But that is just the reality. So look, we could expect around 20 trillion market cap, a little bit of a dip. And after that, we're going to need to see more data where we might end up. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, this is just, a tool that I've used in the past and has been fairly accurate. We will obviously have to wait until mid-July to see how it plays out with the total market cap. But if we are fairly accurate, then we can continue to use similar measurements. And, by then, if we are up potentially another 2 more boxes, let's say hypothetically, before we see a big dip or something, then, then we're going to be able to just use this simple tool, the simple ideology to see where we might end up, right? 2 more boxes would be around 7.2, which I do actually think this cycle, we are aiming between, like roughly the 7 to 9 trillion. You might think that is actually very, very high, but the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, that, the stock market peaked at 180 trillion in 2024. So, us going up a couple trillion this cycle is really not that much. It's really not that much. I know, we can't make a comparison yet to the stock market. It's not the most fair thing, but I do genuinely believe that this is going to be one of the biggest pumps, and this is going to be the gateway of when everyone, goes crazy for crypto. I really, really do believe that. Look, in terms of even Fibonacci tools in the past, right? Because this is also a good indicator. If we use the Fibonacci tool, we take it from the top, we take it to the relevant bottom, we flip it so it's, going the proper way. We can see that we peaked at even the 4 level, right? The first altcoin season, which is the most important for me because this is where I'm looking to personally cash out. If anything, rebuy, if we are going back to levels, and of course resell again after. We did peak at a 3.72. So, yes, there's going to be, it's going to require more money to get a similar type of ratio, but I expect there to be more money. And if we do have something very, very similar, right, we could take it from here to, let's just say, these bottoms, right? And we can see that actually going to the 3.2 area would be that 7 trillion mark. And even with the boxes that we used earlier, we did actually peak around the 7 trillion. So we'll see. We'll see with the total market cap. I'm super, super excited, right? You have multiple tools indicating that it could be here. Obviously, when we have more data with the global liquidity, by the time mid-July happens, we will have to see how it plays out. If obviously for some reason the global liquidity just plummets over the next 2 months, then we got to cash out mid-July. It is that simple. But if it does not plummet and it continues to rise, then we will continue to update you with this box theory, with Fibonacci tools, and of course the actual technical analysis in terms of the candles, in terms of news and everything else. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye. Portfolio reviews, economic and global updates and news, frequent up-to-date technical analysis, and a very supportive community. Sell and buy calls and trading education is provided. If that sounds good to you, now is the time to act. Once the markets start moving, there is no I should've, coulda, woulda. Now is the time. If you want to take things to another level, we have the blueprint that covers everything from A to Z in crypto that you need. No fluff, no bullshit, just the most important news, fundamentals, and technicals to have you succeed in these markets.